Hello, Geordie. Good morning or evening. Just a brief feedback after a month. Since our meeting at the dry fasting retreat, I always find it interesting to receive feedback right after the retreat. But it's also interesting to see what happened during and after the dry fast. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on your experience during the retreat, and how you feel now. So if you could give me a little feedback on what happened for you, what you went through internally during this dry fast. I forget how many days you did. You'll explain.
Sure, I will.
I'll go through it all.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to give this little feedback. I spent nearly 9 days with you. I think I managed 212 hours, from my last sip to my first after the fast. But that's just a precise count. So, I did 8 days, almost 9. Alright. This was my first extended dry fast. Previously, I had completed a maximum of 72 hours. That was a few years ago. I arrived fairly prepared, which means yes, I've completed several dry fasts since April. We fasted during July. I completed 24 hours weekly in April, then did 36, 42, or 48 hours in May, depending on the week. At the beginning of June, I completed a fast of about 70 hours. I feel that helped my body acclimatize to this reflex. This adaptation reflex, somewhat, the metabolism transitioned from month to month quite swiftly and easily. That was a good thing. I didn't do any specific purges. I did not. I didn't take any baking soda, as you advise. I did take care, of course, in my own way, but I managed a gradual dietary transition by slowly eliminating meat, dairy, gluten, and so on. Although I did it rather late. I completed all this in the last week, actually. So, I didn't do a particularly drastic preparation. And
if I might ask, how long? 3 weeks? A month? You haven't really.
The first fasting periods I completed were genuinely 3 months ago. Concerning food and all that, it was quite short. 10 days prior, I began to avoid certain things. There you go, that's to provide a bit of context. After that, I wasn't attending. Not for serious illnesses or anything like that. I only have hearing problems. It's complicated to fix those with fasting. I have hearing loss on both sides and ringing. It's a bit complicated to handle by fasting or something similar. Anyway, I had a few minor problems. I had some eczema, a bit of hay fever, and things like that. Periodic slight digestive delays and minor feelings of heaviness in the stomach. So, that's that. I mainly came to experience this physical process of fasting. And I came with quite a mindset. Down to earth, precisely, with a basic physiological approach. And in fact, what I really appreciated about fasting with the group is that I got caught in this group dynamic, which is very, very strong, very powerful, and helps much more easily than when you're at home, dealing with your daily life. To do fasting, cutting off from the outside world, by stepping away from all the professional, family, or other hassles, or even the daily logistics. This enables us to focus and be more aware of what's going on in the present. And I believe that's the essential part of successfully fasting, especially in tranquility. And I adored that because it allowed me to see fasting from different angles beyond just the physical, quite basic. And I uncovered different facets of fasting that I had never tried independently. I found a kind of spirituality that I believe I already possessed, but it intensified somewhat. A relationship with nature, since we were in a beautiful setting, with flowing water, mountains, stunning trees, and meadows. It was really gorgeous. And also, in terms of my perception of my body, there were elements that amazed me. It's my body's perception. I can't quite find the words, but I call it my energy body. And this occurred when I resumed eating. In the first hours after I started drinking water again, I sensed my vitality returning, so intensely that it felt like my body was 10 centimeters away from itself. This was quite surprising. Really caught me off guard, as I didn't see it coming. It's not at all what I sought. I felt this strongly for 3 or 4 days after I resumed eating. Then it vanished as suddenly as it appeared, and it hasn't reappeared since. So that was a surprising experiment. I anticipated everything but that. I'm unsure what to think, but it was intriguing. But to go back to the fast itself, it was a fantastic moment. It was timeless. It was delightful to have such great support from Doria and you. It was lovely to benefit from your knowledge in this area too, as it's still something you've experienced for a long time on your own. And it's not your first time helping fasters, so I think you're starting to get the hang of it, along with your naturopath skills and all that. So that was very rewarding, having those brief moments of discussion about not just fasting, but other health topics or even wellness overall. Times when we did relaxation or breathing exercises for stress management and meditation. Moments when you informed us about iridology as well. I could keep going. We did many things like that. So that was really great. I was referring to the connection to nature earlier. It was really essential, I think, to be able to walk in nature as we did daily, to walk either in a group or solo, to reconnect with oneself and one's thoughts. It's true that it's a time when fasting encourages introspection, and sometimes to quiet the mind, to stop talking. It's lovely to be able to marvel at, I don't know, a stream, a flower, or anything. It's really pleasant. So, yes, very positive, extremely positive as an experience. What surprised me the most was both surprising, as it's always incredible to see, but I knew it, I was convinced, it's the surprising ease with which I was able to complete this fast without any physical discomfort, almost, apart from a weakness that set in. Naturally, that's logical, but that was the only genuine discomfort I experienced. On the final day, when I ended the fast, I did so because I felt pressure in my chest, and breathing was becoming a mission. With each breath, I had to compel myself to breathe. I didn't want to deal with that, so I thought, today's the day, I'll resume drinking water. And immediately, in the minutes that followed, it faded away. Then I conducted the skin pinch test from the 6th day to check if I was dehydrated or not. It became noticeable at the end of the 8th day. Indeed, a slight sluggishness of the skin. Regaining its form, I was slightly creased for a few seconds. Noticing the body's resources, observing that we often panic mentally, often emotionally, but the body has resources that are 1,000 times more than we can imagine. And that's nice because it provided me with a kind of freedom in my approach to everyday life. This means that if one day I find myself in a situation where I can't eat or drink, or both, or if I find myself in a situation where I don't like the quality of what's available to eat or drink, I can go without it for a rather indefinite time, with a relative ease that is quite relative, but still I found it surprising to see that someone with a low weight like mine can manage a fast so easily, without any trouble, without any discomfort. And feeling quite positive throughout the fast, it went very well. The refeeding went very smoothly. So that was also great. I got back home I lost about 10 or 11 kilos, I think, during the fast. I've already gained back 8 or 9. Okay. So there you go, it's risen nicely.
And how do you feel about the group refeeding? And how do you see it compared to doing it at home? How did the refeeding go over perhaps 7 days? We did it as a group. How did you appreciate the group refeeding? Did you feel satisfied with the amount of food? Did you want more? How did you feel about that refeeding moment?
I would have liked much more. But that's the whole point of group refeeding. It's precisely to avoid falling into that trap. I thought it was brilliant because Doria prepared the meals for us. It was really delicious what she made. You could feel a lot of intention, and it was very simple cooking, because of course, we're refeeding, there's no salt, no sugar, no spices. So that's it, there's no sauce, there's no cream. For people who are used to it, it may seem a bit bland, at least a bit disorienting. But for me, it's a type of food I'm pretty used to, even if I sometimes enjoy adding many ingredients to my dishes, but I also like to eat fairly simply. So I quickly felt at home. And on top of that, I found the portions almost too large. From the very start, I thought it was a bit too indulgent. I think I could have eaten less. During the first days, the indulgence quickly took over. And being in a group, we talk, so there's also that aspect of sharing the experience. So we end up eating a bowl a bit larger than we perhaps should have. But I think it was still within limits. It was controlled. That's the good thing. They served us a bowl, and they were the ones who served us. It wasn't us who were filling it to the top. So that's quite positive. And I think it genuinely avoids serious pitfalls after fasting, because I think that's where we can really ruin things. Even after a successful fast, if we don't reintroduce food properly. And when we get a bit of binge eating or indulgence, or when we let ourselves be led by our desires, the body reclaims its rights a bit, and sometimes, old habits come back quickly, I think. And that was really, really positive. I loved it.
You're quite right, the problem is the resumption, that's the key to fasting. It's not really about what happens before, but for us, it's mainly what we do afterwards, how we are going to manage this phenomenon of compulsion, since we want to feel good, but we mustn't get caught in the trap, and I thought you grasped all these mechanisms very well, and that everyone could resume at their own pace. If you want to discuss the physical benefits you've received, how do you feel now in terms of physical and psychological well-being? What has this 14-day detox brought you, with almost 9 days of dry fasting? What has it given you internally and physically, the benefits?
Well, what I particularly feel is significant progress in my nervous system and in handling stress and emotions. I believe it helped me find a form of calm and serenity that I had lost for years. And that's the significant positive point for me. It helped me settle my mind a bit. And to have a way to cope with the stress from everyday life, the surprises, the things to handle that can occur at any time, which aren't ideal for us. I think it gave me a relative capacity to react better, with more composure. So that's a significant benefit. I've regained a somewhat improved sleep quality too, which is already starting to get a bit better, unfortunately, but because I think I handle my sleep very poorly. That's my problem with life organization. I manage my sleep very, very poorly. So there's a lot to work on in that regard. What else? I had a bit of eczema before coming to the retreat on my legs. It hasn't returned. It went away during the retreat and hasn't come back. I felt a bit of itching when I resumed eating for a few days. And then it went away. So that's really wonderful too. And in general, my vitality has increased. I get out of bed more easily in the morning. And I also feel a bit tired earlier in the evening. I find that quite positive too. Every evening, around 10:30, I feel a wave of fatigue telling me I should go to bed. Whereas I had somewhat lost that feeling, I think I might lose it again because I can't manage this timing issue. Which really shouldn't be a problem, but it is for me. Otherwise, very, very positive. These are points, quite subtle. But I can still feel them strongly. Having been in this for years, I am a performer, so I have work hours where I sometimes sleep in the early morning. I have sleepless nights between gigs. And when I'm home, there are so many habits I've developed over the years, etc. So I believe it affects me greatly. So it's understandable that I can't resolve everything. After 9 days of dry fasting. It's not only about the fasting, it mainly hinges on me.
It's really nice to hear you talk about all this. Your analysis of what you've experienced is very positive. If you were to suggest something to those considering fasting, regardless of health issues, to conclude, what could you tell them?
What I want to say is to take the plunge. I think I've been anticipating a long fast like this for about 10 years. And honestly, I feel I should have done it earlier. It's amazing. It's more than I ever hoped for or imagined. It's brilliant. But you mustn't be misled into believing it's a complete solution that will fix everything, because it isn't. I think it's simply a route. And by being involved with you and the group, it inspired me to truly pursue this path more seriously and to incorporate it into my daily life. This doesn't mean I won't eventually seek another retreat with you or in some other manner. But it genuinely made me feel. It's such a simple tool that gives us so much, is free of charge, and is easy to execute. That doesn't virtually no contraindications, unless there are very heavy pathologies or unique cases. I feel touched.
I greatly appreciate your insights. I look forward to seeing you again if we happen to meet. I really enjoyed meeting you. Quick heads up, there's a retreat in Montenegro for anyone interested. There are still a few spots available. It's set for around 6 weeks from now. I'm just mentioning this quickly. Wishing you a nice evening today and see you soon. See you soon. Thank you a lot, Michel. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.